I want to tell you a story here about a big, troubling event in Ginger's career, but I cannot tell you exactly what happened. I can lay out the facts, the comments from biographies, and the contradictory gossip information, and add my conjectures, but you will have to decide. With help from her boyfriend Mervyn LeRoy, Warner Brothers now gave Ginger her breakout roles with top section billing in two big budget productions, 42nd Street and Gold Diggers of 1933. 42nd Street went well for Ginger, but then Gold Diggers, directed by LeRoy, not as well, culminating in a great scene by Ginger being cut. Ginger writes in her bio how she went to see All Quiet on the Western Front in 1930, a blockbuster that year, and in retrospect, highly acclaimed. Ginger fell in love with Lou Ayres, one of the stars, and this moment would affect her the rest of her life. Ginger had moved into the Garden of Olive Villas around late 1931, and in her bio states when taking tennis lessons met Mervyn LeRoy and they hit it off. LeRoy's bio states instead they started dating when Ginger was still back in New York. Just the start of all this contradictory information. LeRoy got his start in the business, working for his cousin Jesse L. Lasky, who was huge as the first movie mogul, forming the Jesse L. Lasky Feature Play Company in 1913, in partnership with Cecil B. DeMille and Samuel Goldwyn. LeRoy soon advanced to director and was nicknamed the Boy Wonder of Warner Brothers. He advised Ginger on her career moves and put in a good word to Warner Brothers for her. Ginger says they went on many dates and refers to him as a marvelous companion, but also that he was very helpful to my career. He told her she was star material. Well, he was right about that. There are times when accurately telling their life story becomes very confusing for this author, where their bios disagree on the same subject, or other sources tell a totally different story. Never more than starting here. In this post from summer 1932, it states Ginger was engaged to Mervyn LeRoy. Ginger never mentions this at all in her otherwise detailed bio. As to possibly why, if this was not just a tabloid invention, will soon be discussed. Ginger was freelancing through the movies when she got two movies with First National, a division of Warner Brothers, The Tenderfoot and You Said a Mouthful. While her career was rising on its own merit, LeRoy helped Ginger get these roles. After two movies for Fox, now Ginger got her first roles in big-budget productions with Warner Brothers, 42nd Street and Gold Diggers of 1933. Again, LeRoy's influence was helpful. In 42nd Street, Ginger didn't make the poster, but did make the opening credits. Playing the naughty Anytime Annie helped Ginger stand out.
You remember Ann Lowell?
Not Anytime Annie. Say, who could forget her? She only said no once, and then she didn't hear the question.
Ginger had no problem playing bad and immoral girls. In her first full movie, Man of Manhattan, she was a little rich brat chasing a married man. Ginger believed she could play any role and wanted to prove it. And she got permission to wear a monocle to stand out even more.
Get a load of Minnie the Mountaineer. Must have been tough on your mother not having any children. That's telling them. Oh, dear.
Ginger's role in 42nd Street was great. She and Una Merkel provided all the comedy. Ginger's character is sweet and supportive of Keeler.
Calm down.
Stick with us, kid, and you'll come in on the tide.
Come on.
She shines with Merkel, singing Shuffle Off to Buffalo.
Matrimony is baloney. She'll be wanting alimony in a year or so. Still they go and shuffle, shuffle off to Buffalo. I'll bet that she's the farmer's daughter, and he's that well-known traveling man. He once stopped down at the farmhouse. That's how the whole affair began.
And in the end, she is noble, promoting Keeler over herself.
Her voice may not panic her, but she can dance rings around Brock.
And your show's half dancing anyway. She'd kill him, I mean it.
Sawyer, nobody ever heard of her. She's just a raw kid out of the chorus.
Listen, Mr. Marsh. I've been waiting years for a chance like this. And if I give it up for somebody else, believe me, she's gotta be good.
42nd Street's production was completed November 16, 1932. I cannot find the production dates for Gold Diggers of 1933, but it must have started at least by March 1933, since it was released May 27th. In January and February 1933, there were more published commentary about LeRoy and Ginger. Again, I must stress, I view this type of source as very unreliable. That is true back then and now. Bear with me here. These documentaries will not be shoveling dirt on their subjects. You want sensationalist videos? There are plenty out there. This subject is covered because it leads to a dramatic event in Ginger's career, and my best attempt at explaining what happened here. Ginger and LeRoy's engagement was again announced January 22nd, 1933. In a surprising statement, a February 1st, 1933 article states LeRoy did not know Ginger was going to be in Gold Diggers, which kind of refutes the idea that LeRoy's influence got Ginger this role. Another February 1933 statement declared a seeming end to their relationship and that LeRoy was dating another woman. Late February, Ginger and LeRoy are seen out again together. Ginger never mentions being engaged to LeRoy. What Ginger does state over and over is she was in love with the man she never met, Lou Ayres. She portrays her relationship with LeRoy as friends. He was charming and helpful, and I assume filled in a gap in her life. There are contradictory comments, as in James Robert Parrish's 1974 book, The RKO Gals, which states, many Hollywood bystanders were convinced the couple would soon be wed, while Ginger never said yes to that important question. LeRoy also never mentions being engaged to Ginger in his bio, and actually only mentions Ginger in 2 short paragraphs. After saying he met the lovely, vibrant Ginger in New York, he states, for a few years we went together constantly, and, although it never led to anything permanent, it was great fun while it lasted. Then he gets a little dig in, calling her the bachelor girl, who dated dozens of men over the years. Sounds like a bruised ego to me. Ginger's bio had 1,100 pages cut from it, and with that much cutting, I am sure the baby got thrown out with the bathwater several times. Very possibly she had a lot to say about all this, but it came out too harsh, and if she could not state how she felt, she would say nothing. Maybe she does not mention this and the other upcoming issues because this entire strange episode is embarrassing to her. I cannot prove Ginger was or was not engaged to LeRoy. Was it publicity or real? Did young Ginger get herself into a situation here, saying yes and then regretting it? Who knows? I am left with supposition. Ginger discussed other sensitive issues. I do not see her lying about an engagement. I do not believe she was engaged to LeRoy. We've all seen the guy being the good friend of the gorgeous woman, hoping it could become more. That is what I think was going on here. Eventually, the guy gives up. In reading Ginger's bio, it seems she does state what happened in an indirect way, and you have to read between the lines. She tells of when, out with LeRoy, he introduced her to the notorious womanizer Howard Hughes. Hughes sat at their table and made it apparent all he was interested in was Ginger. They danced, Hughes holding Ginger closely. She wrote, as Merv drove me home, I mused about the curious Texas oilman flyer. I wonder what he'd be like as a date. Did Ginger verbalize what she was thinking to LeRoy? If so, no guy wants to hear that. Was this when LeRoy realized Ginger was never going to marry him? In the next sentence, she starts off, not long after that evening, and discusses LeRoy's surprise engagement announcement to Warner. Right after that, she started dating Hughes. Is my connecting the dots so far-fetched here? Is Ginger actually stating that she dumped LeRoy for use in a non-direct way? Ginger continued on in that next sentence, declaring she was stunned at the announcement Mervyn LeRoy was marrying Doris Warner, the daughter of Warner Brothers head Harry Warner. As Ginger tells the story, this did not seem to bother her. Ginger refers to LeRoy as her tennis and dancing partner. But it must have bothered LeRoy. Ginger claims that when she finally was around him again 5 years later, he avoided eye contact with her the entire time. Is that the act of a guilty conscience? Was he prohibited from any contact? Or was he still angry at being jilted? What makes this so difficult to piece together is the lack of exact dates, putting this into a clear timeline. One last confusing statement. There is a scene in the recent biopic about Oscar-winning costume designer Ori Kelly, Women He Undressed, who created the costumes for Gold Diggers, showing an actress playing Ginger howling in tears to the Ori Kelly character over her unnamed fiancé becoming engaged to another woman. A very unflattering portrayal of Ginger. But I put little weight to the accuracy of this sensationalist work. It was barely worth watching and infuriating to this Ginger fan. It included a made-up gossip magazine cover with an image of Ginger from years later, casting further doubt on the integrity of this work. It ends up with the creepy image of the Ori Kelly character smirking with Ginger crying in the background. Trash. I dwell on this because it leads up to a crucial and astounding career event soon to occur for Ginger. May 27, 1933, Warner Brothers released Gold Diggers of 1933, directed by Ginger's boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, Mervyn LeRoy. It was a big hit, number 3 gross revenue for the year. This time Ginger made the poster and was again in the opening credits.
With silver you can turn your dreams to gold. Oh, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
As always, clever Ginger found a way to stand out even more. Ginger was goofing around after practicing the song and started singing it in Pig Latin. Producers Darrell F. Zanuch heard it and put it in the show. Or was that Ginger's plan all along?
This is the 4th show in 2 months that I've been in of and out of. They close before they open.
The Depression, dearie. Say!
Who'd you think it was, the wolf?
I came to tell you gals good news. Barney's putting on a new show. Yeah, and if one doesn't look modish with Barney, it's thumbs down.
But then something started to happen to Ginger's character. She was disliked, even despised, by almost all the lead characters. McMahon calls her a slut.
I look much better in clothes than any of you. If Barney could see me in clothes...
He wouldn't recognize you.
The producer grimaces at her appearance.
Oh, hello, Mr. Hopkins. Charming to see you again.
Sit down, sit down.
And then tells her to shut up or she will have no role.
I'd like to do a specialty.
Sit down, you'll do a blackout.
Blondell makes a nasty crack at her next appearance, and then McMahon verbally shreds her, and then threatens her with breaking her leg.
Ouch!
What's the matter?
Faye has an attack of chiseling. It's chronic with her. Another look at him with those bedroom eyes and I'll break your leg. Excuse me for whispering. Faye and I have so much in common.
Her next appearance, McMahon threatens to break both legs.
You excuse us, please.
Sure.
Can you see that?
See what?
Can you read where it says exit? Exit? You said it. You start walking and you keep walking. And if you ever come near him again, I'll break both your legs.
I could easily resent that.
And scram.
Oh!
Did a little...
You can shine being bad, but unlikable? Regretfully, there is no future in playing unlikable roles, except as pure character actors. The public gets a perception of you, and it sticks. Because editing was so time-consuming at this time, they built movies sequentially and constantly adjusted the script as they went along. Remember, My Forgotten Man was supposed to be earlier in the movie, but they decided it was so good moved it to the end, moving Petting in the Park earlier. What I do not know is if Ginger's character was written into the original script as being so disliked, or did this develop as the movie progressed? If the latter, this must have been troubling for Ginger. Ginger played a cast and couch slut in 42nd Street, and then, in Gold Diggers, again plays the same type of character. 2 movies, in each only one character is like this, and both times it is Ginger. That is the beginning of being typecasted. And is this all Warner Brothers saw her good for? There was a time when playing the naughty girl led to fame and fortune, like Mae West and Jean Harlow. But the Hays Code was about to be enforced. This was dead-end typecasting. So Ginger gets the great opening scene, singing We're in the Money. Then, as the movie progresses, not much during the middle of the movie, but it is often quality, not quantity, that matters. And Ginger had a great scene near the end of the movie, possibly her greatest scene to date, singing I've Got to Sing a Torch Song. It was very elaborate, with the piano dropping down from the ceiling, with Ginger sitting upon it. With 2 knockout singing performances in this big hit, this movie was a smashing success for Ginger. If you look up this movie, you will come across an extensive series of beautiful images of Ginger, some excellent photography, where she is absolutely gorgeous. None of this is in the movie, though. Not in any movie. Well, actually, some sharp-eyed observers noticed this brief scene in the movie where you can see Ginger singing the song in the background. This is from Ginger's scene singing I've Got to Sing a Torch Song. It reportedly was great and would have boosted her career. I do not believe any copy survived. So what happened here? The reason why I had no idea is that Ginger does not mention this event at all in her otherwise long and detailed biography. She went into great detail on other events where she felt slighted. Why not this huge event for her at this time? 3, I believe interconnected, events occurred simultaneously. Ginger's scene was cut, her boyfriend got married, and Ginger refused a long-term contract. Earlier, I reviewed the status of Ginger and LeRoy's relationship, whether they were friends or engaged, and who might have dumped who. Whatever the case, there were surely hurt feelings, and possibly anger and feelings of betrayal between the 2 of them. That is why I found the quote about LeRoy not knowing Ginger was going to be in Gold Diggers amusing. He had probably been pushing for her all along, but now, no, I can't have her in my movie. Some have stated Ginger never cried. She was tough. She did not say that. She said she never let them see her cry, would never give them the satisfaction. I am sure throughout Gold Diggers, Ginger kept her composure in what must have been a very uncomfortable shoot. The only other source of info I have is a gossip column. Not that these gossip rags are reliable sources, a mix of truth, half-truths, exaggerations, innuendo, and lies. It must be noted this came out after Ginger's career was protected by a long-term contract with RKO. It is not known if Ginger was behind this story or RKO's publicity department, which Ginger and Fred much later said made up stories all the time about their fighting. Screenland, September 1934, had a very pro-Ginger article about this event. It starts off describing her as the latest hot-tempered redhead in Hollywood. Only at the premiere of Gold Diggers in Grauman's Chinese Theater did Ginger discover her torch song scene had been cut. It says a few days before Ginger had refused a long-term contract, so they did not want to promote a star not under contract. They had spent $15,000 making this scene, so afterwards they wanted to use it in shorts, but Ginger refused. They offered money, going up to $10,000, and Ginger still refused. There is a lot more fluff about her defying other studio heads, Ginger's winning 50 school popularity contests, signing a long-term contract with RKO, her sweet personality, athletic skills, and relationship with Lou Ayres. They wouldn't lie, would they? This had to be a shit situation for LeRoy and for the Warner family. At the same time, he is engaged to their daughter, their niece. A movie he directed and they produced is going to highlight just how gorgeous his very recent ex-girlfriend is. Ginger's pretty singing We're in the Money and throughout the movie, but if the photos are any indication of how she appeared in the I've Got to Sing a Torch Song scene, now she was stunning. Was Ginger's great scene cut as a wedding present to Doris Warner? A little payback from her jilted ex-boyfriend? Before you declare this ridiculous, look into just how far studio heads would go, to the point of damaging their studio's finances for personal reasons, starting with the demise of John Gilbert's career. Gilbert reportedly roughed up MGM's Louis B. Mayer, seemingly justified, and while the two were still bound together by a long-term contract, Mayer crushed Gilbert's career. Some do cast doubt on this story. What happened next is confusing. The gossip column says they tried to put her great scene in a short. If it was as great as claimed, it would have boosted her career. Had Warner played a tough hand and Ginger called their bluff? Now they were back where they started, in the sweepstakes to sign Ginger long-term. She refused $10,000, which is a lot of money back then? If true, then Ginger had to have been really pissed off. One last, even more confusing detail. Warner Brothers released a soundtrack album for the movie and included Ginger singing I've Got to Sing a Torch Song.
I've got to sing a torch song, 'cause that's the way I feel.
Those are the facts and the gossip. That Warner Brothers tried to lock Ginger into a long-term contract rings true. Everyone was. They saw she was a unique talent with a bright future. And now they were no longer constricted by her being one of their top directors' girl. Maybe this was all about the long-term contract. The only thing the studio heads cared about more than money was power and control. Movie history is filled with shameful and sometimes outright despicable acts by these men. The casting couch, just one example. Ginger was defying the entire system. She writes several references to attempted casting couch incidences, where her mother protected her, she ran out saying she was late for her next shoot, or she even threatened to tell the producer's wife. Most of all, she got out of her initial long-term contract with Paramount and afterwards refused all long-term contract offers. She was not alone with this, but it was rare. This must have frustrated the studio heads because they wanted to lock up talent so only they could make money from them and not competing studios. As Ginger's career rose, and at this point it was rising, even before these two Warner Brothers big-budget movies, the studios were all trying to get Ginger to sign long-term with them. Maybe Warner Brothers decided on a different approach. First show Ginger what they could do for her with this great scene, and then show her they could take it away. Maybe, just maybe, the timing was far more nefarious. The article says she turned down the long-term contract just a few days before the premiere. Did they have time to cut her scene after that, or was it already done? Is it possible the plan was to lock her in for a long-term contract, where her career was at the mercy of the studio, and then have her realize what she had just agreed to when her best scene was cut? Realize who was the boss? After all, who did this little hussy think she was anyway? Refusing to pay her dues on the couch? Made a fool of their director? Humiliated their daughter or niece? Congratulations, Doris. As an engagement present, we crushed that bitch's career. A little far-fetched? Probably. If Warner Brothers had called Ginger into a meeting and explained why her scene was cut, even stating you did not sign, so we cut it, that would have been business. But if the gossip rag is accurate, and that's a big if, having Ginger sit there at the premiere and realize her scene was cut was cruel, vicious. Maybe Ginger doesn't talk about it because she was so humiliated. Maybe Warner Brothers thought she would cave to their demands and put the scene back in. So thanks, Merv, old buddy, old pal. As the movie progressed, Ginger must have been troubled. But at least she had those 2 great singing performances. With that cut, was the writing on the wall clear enough? Thankfully, Ginger turned down their long-term contract, or her just blossoming career might have been reduced to garbage, and there would have been nothing she could do about it. I stand by my statements about the despicable behavior of these studio heads. Columbia gave Ginger a screen test, but did not sign her. Studio head Harry Cohn did chase Ginger around his desk until she threatened to tell his wife. Would she have gotten the part if she gave in to his attempt? In these cretins' sick minds, they did not care what they were doing to these young women. But do this to the girl of one of Hollywood's elite? They would never do that. Ginger had been protected by her relationship with LeRoy, but I guess now she was fair game. I have rewritten this section countless times as I was presented with new facts and informed opinions. One commentator on this channel stated that when Jack and Harry Warner reviewed this scene in the screening room, it was too strong of a performance and would destroy the narrative of the movie. In other words, Ginger would steal the show. Her fans know just how good Ginger could be, but at that time it was probably very surprising. Do you allow Ginger to steal the show as she walks out the door and performs for other studios? What happened over the next decade might be indicative. One thing for sure, Ginger never seemed to hold a grudge, not against anyone she at some point claims wronged her. Years later, the LeRoys were invited to a party held by Phyllis Fraser, Ginger's cousin. But she did seemingly hold a grudge for a while. In 1934, Ginger did 2 more movies for Warner Brothers under their first national title. This was after flying down to Rio. Ginger never mentions the terms of her contract with Warner Brothers. Was it a 4-movie deal with these completing her obligation? Again, in Upworld, Ginger played a slut, a burlesque performer who starts off in a blackmail scheme against a rich and powerful man. It seems that is how Warner Brothers saw her. But this was still a much better role. She often shines, and in the end her character is sweet and fragile, and then heroic. If it was a 4-movie deal, Warner had one more chance, and in 20 Million Sweethearts, she gets to play a great role. Sweet, strong, forgiving, supportive. Didn't work. Soon she signed with RKO, which was not infamous for its casting couch, and had always seen far more in Ginger than the rest of the studios. After Gold Diggers, RKO gave her a wonderful role in Professional Sweetheart, where all her many talents really shined. In 1937, 4 years later, when Ginger was an established star, RKO and Warner Brothers made a swap deal for Ginger and Paul Muni. Ginger was to do another musical with Dick Powell. Ginger refused. Ginger refused all follow-up offers, and RKO had to pay a $75,000 penalty. Was Ginger getting even? She did turn down many roles over the years. In 1942, Bette Davis was in a contract dispute with Warner, and Ginger was offered Now Voyager, which she really wanted to do. But Davis ended her strike when Ginger was offered the role. Ginger, who freelanced around the studios most of her career, did not do another Warner Brothers movie until Perfect Strangers in 1950. She made the right choice, even without 20/20 hindsight. As for LeRoy, he left Warner Brothers for MGM in 1938 and divorced Warner in 1942. Whatever sting Ginger might have felt from her Warner Brothers experience, nothing was going to hold her back from her singular pursuit of her career. Ginger now resumed freelancing for 6 more movies, now with 4 top billings under the title, 1 second and 1 third. This included a 3-movie contract with RKO with an option for a long-term contract. More importantly, she was able to highlight her improving acting skills in other genres, including drama, romance, romantic comedies, and musicals. She was not only very good at being very bad, she could play sweet and loyal just as well. Whatever really happened here, Ginger's career survived her confrontation with one of the larger studios, under her terms, and continued to boldly navigate her path forward. Still, even she must have been surprised at the heights she would soon attain. Please like and subscribe.